For me, there's a simple rule: surprised by what happens in politics.
The face of truth is open, the eyes of truth forward, the gaze of truth is straight. Truth has neither fear nor doubt, truth has patience to wait. The words of truth are touching, the voice of truth is deep. The law of truth is simple, all you sow you reap. The soul of truth is flaming, the heart of truth is warm. The mind of truth is clear and firm through rain and storm. Facts are only its shadow. Truth stands above all sin. Great be the battle of life. Truth in the end shall win. The image of truth is the cross. Wisdom's message is its rod. The sign of truth is Christ, and the soul of truth is God. Life of truth is eternal. Immortal is its past. Power of truth shall endure. Truth shall hold to the last.
I don't have to tell you things are bad. Everybody knows things are bad. It's a depression. Everybody's out of work or scared of losing their job. The dollar buys a nickel's worth. Banks are going bust. Shopkeepers keep a gun under the counter. Punks are running wild in the street, and there's nobody anywhere who seems to know what to do, and there's no end to it. We know the air is unfit to breathe, and our food is unfit to eat. We sit watching our TVs while some local newscaster tells us that today we had 15 homicides and 63 violent crimes, as if that's the way it's supposed to be. We know things are bad, worse than bad. They're crazy. It's like everything everywhere is going crazy, so we don't go out anymore. We sit in the house, and slowly the world we're living in is getting smaller, and all we say is, please, at least leave us alone in our living room. Let me have my toaster and my TV and my steel-belted radios, and I won't say anything. Just leave us alone. Well, I'm not going to leave you alone. I want you to get mad. I don't want you to protest. I don't want you to write to your congressman, because I wouldn't know what to tell you to write. I don't know what to do about the depression and the inflation and the Russians and the crying in the street. All I know is that first, you've got to get mad. You've got to say, I'm a human being. God damn it. My life has value.
We don't know when the next general election will be called in St. Lucia, but how will the outcome of that poll nonetheless affect your mental health? That's our NewsSpin question of the day. As we monitor general elections over in Trinidad and Tobago and Canada, respectively. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of the world's most monitored talk show, NewsSpin, on Power 97.9 FM. We are also on the NewsSpin Facebook page, as well as the NewsSpin YouTube channel. We go up until 2 o'clock this afternoon, and quite apart from having reports from Amanda regarding the comments you'll be making in the chat room, I'll be hearing from you directly via 452-2979, 452-2979, WhatsApp calls and messages 716-2026, 716-2026. We trust that you had yourself an enjoyable weekend, and no doubt, as usual, you're getting all set for an unpredictable week. Don't know what will happen in St. Lucia, indeed the region and the rest of the world. Life is so unpredictable. And so a warning is in effect for voters of Trinidad and Tobago regarding the expectations. And not only the voters, the canvassers, and the candidates participating in that poll. That's because everyone wants to be declared a winner at the end of a general election. And egos will be bruised. People will feel that their investments, financial and otherwise, particularly if they are not victorious, would have been in vain. And so you have people who are very depressed. Anxiety takes over their whole system. And against that background, a warning has been issued. I'll be reading a story in its entirety because I think it has lessons for us in St. Lucia as well. People invest so much in their respective political parties and candidates, and they're always looking forward to a favorable outcome. To the extent that in the case of some of our voters in St. Lucia, they unreasonably put themselves in a position where they're already predicting the outcome of the next poll. And I'm often amazed when I hear people calling NewsSpin and they would say that this party definitely will win the next general election, or that party. On the basis of what? Not on any hardcore evidence, not on any facts, not in any survey that has been conducted or poll, not on anything scientific. It is on a hunch. It is just on a feeling. A cursory glance at the local political landscape certainly would suffice for them to conclude which party will win the next general election. And they are encouraged by people who should know better, such as politicians who boast that they will win all 17 seats come the next poll. And so what this is doing is energizing their base. And there are some people who cannot deal with the outcome of general elections psychologically. A lot of those people, they get very depressed, you know. It might come to us as a surprise to some of you. Very depressed. Some of them, after a general election and when their party has lost, they go on a sabbatical, they take a break, a long one, and they don't call NewsSpin. Some instances for years. One particular individual, the last time he called NewsSpin was in 2016. His party was in office. His party lost, to his amazement, and he decided never to call this talk show again. So people invest a lot. I do not have a horse in the race, so I don't invest that much. But I do care about my country, and I care about the individuals who will be presiding over St. Lucia and managing its affairs, because that can affect our future. That has long-term implications for generations to come. And so the NewsSpin question of the day: how will the outcome of St. Lucia's next general election affect your mental health? And we have some comments. Allow me to go through as many as I possibly can. Somebody says their fear, hopelessness, anger, hatred, exhaustion, political events at home and abroad like election season, the war in Gaza and related protests and marches can catalyze a wide range of emotions and reactions. And with social media and streaming platforms bringing us non-stop coverage of these events as they unfold, the mental health impact of politics is exponentially multiplied. Somebody says there, well, God will protect the brokenhearted. Another one: Tim, to tell you the honest truth, I'm not looking forward to it. Another comment: my God will protect and cover me under his blood, AP, that's it. Another one says, no work, depression. Another comment: too much crime and prostitution with no money, sad. Another person says, I will be fine after I get my condo in the town of Babonneau. Paleu. Another one says, I think it will only mentally affect those that the navel string was buried under a particular political party's backyard because of the amount of hatred, anger, personal attacks, and friends that have become enemies in the name of party politics. I think they're already being mentally unstable. And this, no doubt, is being promoted by some politicians in this country. Because if you are supporting a political party where they themselves believe that that party should not even exist, those politicians what they will do is to encourage their supporters to threaten you, to insult you. They engage in ad hominem arguments, not focusing about the issues of the day, but personalities and how you look and your you, etc. And supporters buy into this. And the hatred that is permeating through our society right now because of politics is unprecedented. What is being written on social media, the memes, the insults that are being hurled via some talk shows in St. Lucia, it is just so unwarranted. Because politicians, especially the loudest ones, they have invested so much. And they have so much to lose. Rest assured that the attacks that will be hurled in the coming weeks and months in the run up to the next general election, certainly it will be unprecedented. And in some cases it will shock people. I know that many of you in St. Lucia, you are no longer caught unawares or caught by surprise on the basis of what has been happening in this island over the last few years. So continue with some of the comments. Somebody says there, I'm waiting. And that's a simple comment that we have there from that individual. So again, let me turn my attention to the Trinidad Express story. Depression, anxiety, warning for voters. And the article is penned by one Anna Ramdas. As we have general elections over in TNT, and Stuart Young, he wants to remain Prime Minister, and Kamala Bisesa also wants to return to the helm of the government. So the article reads, mental health experts are urging citizens to stay grounded and calm regardless of the outcome of today's general election. The Express yesterday spoke to Professor Gerard Hutchinson and Dr. Vamar Dayal Singh, who both stated that today's proceedings are likely to stir high emotions, with feelings of anxiety building throughout the day, followed by either joy or sadness once the results are announced. In general, people coping with loss or go through the so-called classic stages of grief. Sometimes they enter denial first, seeking reasons to reject the outcome and buying into various theories to explain it away. Others become depressed once they finally accept the loss, Hutchinson said. He explained that depression, helplessness, and hopelessness often arise from the belief that one's future will be negatively impacted during the opposing party's time in office. He added that some individuals may also engage in a psychological defense mechanism called splitting, in which they change their political allegiance and begin to identify flaws in the party they once supported. Hutchinson noted that because of how the system operates in this country, some people may adopt a detached, indifferent attitude, while others may turn to alcohol or drugs as a means of coping. The key thing to remember is that regardless of who wins, life goes on. The issues you face day to day will remain, and you must stay grounded. Reality testing and acceptance are crucial. Recognizing the reality of the situation and continuing to meet the demands of your life is essential for maintaining your mental health and peace of mind, he said. Hutchinson also warned that anyone experiencing violent urges should seek immediate help. And according to Dr. Vamar Dayal Singh, some individuals, especially financiers and those who had high expectations tied to the election's outcome, may feel they have much to lose. Similarly, he said, victims of crime and those who are dissatisfied with the economy may experience deep disappointment if their preferred party does not win. Dayal Singh also highlighted a troubling aspect of the electoral system. It is possible for a party to win the popular vote and still lose the election, which could leave many feeling marginalized. This country is very divided, and this is why whoever assumes leadership must work to unite the population and make everyone feel included in the victory. We cannot move forward if half the population feels alienated, he stressed. He warned that political disillusionment could deepen, with people feeling disgust towards politics and losing respect for politicians, further fueling public distrust. Dayal Singh pointed to historical examples such as the 2021 riot at Capitol Hill in the U.S. to underscore the dangers when emotions spiral out of control. He emphasized the need for national leaders to actively call for peace and calm. The President of the Republic should encourage the two main political leaders to meet, shake hands, and show unity to calm the waters. All leaders must address the anger and fear that may arise, he said. Dayal Singh explained that after the initial wave of fear and anger, many will experience depression and will need emotional support from loved ones. He also cautioned that emotional fallout will not be limited to voters, as losing politicians will face their own struggles. They may experience a profound sense of loss, similar to mourning, having invested so much time, energy, and money. There may be shame and embarrassment, especially for those who failed to secure marginal seats, he said. For some, politics forms the core of their identity. Losing can trigger an identity crisis.
that one leader actually came to you and, you know, made himself available, and you make it seem so as if like, who's that person? You know, these things cause problems. It causes problems, it causes tension in the country, and then you now go back and say, oh, we have to come together. You know, every time they have National Day or independence observances, you have to do some and all this nonsense. But do you actually mean it? You know, politics and those these tactics has to be used only during the election time. There needs to be, I don't know if it's in our constitution or something, when people have to understand where it stops, when it starts and when it stops. Because for me, what I realized for this whole entire 4 years that this current administration has been in power, they have been in election mode. It has not stopped, it has not ceased. And at the end of the day, it's always the St. Lucia Labour Party government, not the St. Lucia government. And I feel this needs to stop. We have to come to a point where we say enough is enough. You have won the election, you have lost the election, let us come together and move under the umbrella of the government of St. Lucia. The work has to continue, things have to be done. But this thing what people say in the St. Lucia Labour Party government, this nonsense needs to stop. Okay? And people need to realize people's feelings and realize that at the end of the day we are all human. Yes, we want our family to win, but it would not always happen. And in the eventuality where it does not happen, you have to prepare yourself that, you know what, it may not happen, let's move on from there. Or when it does happen, like you said, we have to be emotionally intelligent enough to realize that, okay, some people are hurting, give them their time to grieve, you know, give them their time to grieve, and let's move on together. But this thing where every day people are telling you, you're seeing red flags in your face, you're seeing yellow flags in your face, you're seeing people not talking to each other, you're seeing, you know, so much anger, and even in the way that certain news media deliver the news, you realize the partisaness in it. You know, it's really not becoming for our country. We're too small for this. And politics is basically slowly removing the communityness, the togetherness that our country has. You know, so we need to stop that and we need to fix that. Thank you.
Okay, caller. Thank you so much for your contribution. 4522979, WhatsApp calls and messages 716-2026, 716-2026. The responsibility is that of voters. Yes, you know, you've invested so much, your emotions and otherwise, in a particular candidate or political party, but you need to be realistic. You cannot buy into suggestions that are fanciful. When, for example, somebody says to you that this particular individual can never win another general election in St. Lucia, that's nonsensical. It does not make sense. It's not realistic. There are some individuals, sometimes you make an assumption, you say, this individual can never win their seat, they end up winning, or that other individual can never lose the political contest, and they end up losing. So who are you to be on the sidelines and to make such ridiculous predictions regarding outcome of general elections and who will win and who will lose? If you're honest enough and you call a talk show and you say, I don't want that particular individual to win their seat, or I don't want that political party to win the next general election, and it's on that basis, etc., I don't identify with their policies and the ideology, etc., that makes more sense than you coming across, you're making those statements with such authority, and you believe wholeheartedly in what you're saying, as if this is premised on anything that is scientific. When you make those points, it says that, you're an individual who is illogical as opposed to being practical. I understand why some individuals would not want certain other people, politicians, to win a general election or win their seats. I understand why they don't want another party to return, etc. But please, let's stop playing the role of a Gade, this rural soothsayer, this guy who can make predictions and he sees into the future and so on. And you just have to go on the basis of, you reposing your confidence in him that he knows exactly what he's talking about. 452-2979. WhatsApp calls and messages 716-2026. I get a sense that we had some technical issues earlier on. I don't know if that's still the case, but people are saying that we have no volume and no sound. I suspect things are a lot better. But let's continue with your calls at 452-2979. WhatsApp calls and messages 716-2026. Again, 716-2026. And let me see if I have a WhatsApp message. Somebody says that, Tim, we had another homicide last evening over in Marigot. Yes. And according to an official from the St. Lucia Fire Service, this incident occurred last evening. It's no longer something that is shocking, that people take note of. The island recording a homicide. So it's a case of, what's new? But let's hear from Sharice John of the St. Lucia Fire Service reporting that the island has recorded another homicide, the latest occurring last evening.
On Sunday, 27th April 2025, the St. Lucia Fire Service responded to a gunshot wound incident at 9:32 p.m. at Marigot. On arrival at the scene, an adult male was found in a supine position on the ground, unconscious and unresponsive. On assessment, he presented negative vitals. Multiple punctured wounds were observed about the body. He was left in the care of police officers attached to the Royal St. Lucia Police Force.
So the island recording yet another homicide. And based on the behavior of our politicians, you saw some of them in the island's parliament while debating, or so-called debating, the budget. As if we don't have such problems in our country. And more than that, they are not deserving of the focus of those people who are elected to create positive change in St. Lucia. And it is a game that they're playing with you, the people. And that game is, let us focus on economic growth and the positive impact that it is having on the people of this country. As if we should not factor in the serious crime problem that we continue to experience in this country, where people are living in fear, where people are mourning the loss of a friend or a relative in this country ever so often. You have to attend so many funerals of young men in particular being shot and killed. And on the other hand, if the police are lucky enough to arrest the perpetrators of those crimes, their family are also grieving as well. The families of the perpetrators, because you have to go to court. Most cases cannot afford an attorney to provide legal representation to those individuals. So a picture is being painted, a perfect picture is being painted by those who are in authority. Let's focus on economic growth. Let's focus on that growth. This is what we did for students. This is what we did for single parents, what we are doing for the police and the nurses, and not focus on where we are failing, not as a government and as a ruling party, but failing as a nation. St. Lucia, we need to get a total grip on that crime problem that we are facing ever so often. And don't tell me about what's happening in Trinidad and in Guyana and Jamaica and Barbados and so on. First of all, we should be able to protect our borders. We should be working 10 times harder than we're doing right now to ensure that illegal guns and ammunition do not enter our shores. We need to do that. And one of the areas, and you'll continue to hear me focus on this issue, where the government failed the people of this country, as if the Prime Minister and National Security Minister did not understand then what he was doing, because he did not see the necessity to disband the K9 unit. How do you get into office? As a government, you get into office. A K9 unit is in existence. We're not saying that one was not in existence and you had to implement one or set up one. And that was proving quite difficult to get the resources, the technical expertise, to get the K9s, to get the dog handlers, to get the vehicle, to get the accommodation. All of that was already in effect, was in place. You just disbanded the K9 unit. And what has been the logical reason or explanation provided by the Prime Minister, who is also the National Security Minister? And for quite some time, we did not have a K9 unit. Eventually, the French donated one dog, Tyson. Then I think a year and a half later, the French donated another dog, the Thug. And two, a K9 unit consisting of 2 dogs is not sufficient, considering the serious crime problem that we're experiencing in our country right now. But it's a start. But I think we had about what? A K9 unit consisting of 3 dogs? And you disbanded it? And the supporters of your party see nothing wrong in what you did? 452-2979, WhatsApp calls and messages 716-2026. Good afternoon to you, Amanda. Let's find out what is happening in the chat room.
Good afternoon, Tim. Good afternoon, NewsSpinners. A few comments from earlier. Someone says here, I am so sad following the case in Guyana, the murder of the 11-year-old. The autopsy is being done today. Another comment reads, Tim, I got my mental health jealousy, so I do not take election results to heart. I learn to accept and move on. A NewsSpinner says, every team out goes in will continue with general elections in St. Lucia. Another comment reads, the team, it has been that way from 1996 to 1997. Someone says there, but RF should come to the House to speak about the people's business, not come in as the leader of the opposition to sing I was born in St. Lucia and I can't sing the song. A commentator reads, so what is Peter Wickham saying about this election? A NewsSpinner says, their team, you're saying so it's a strategy they use to garner support from the feeble-minded. Another comment reads, the team, I disagree. Lucians look up to and some even adore our politicians. So if these same politicians are being divisive, that behavior just trickles down the community and even at the familial level. Another comment reads, St. Lucia is not a real place. And someone says here, when are we getting a report on the number of successful searches Tyson has achieved to date? It seems he is on a doggy holiday. Back to you, Tim.
Thanks so much, Amanda. Some more updates coming up. WhatsApp message, somebody says, Tim, the national anthem states, sons and daughters of St. Lucia, love the land that gave us birth. Shas was not born on the land of St. Lucia. Hence, I believe this was Richard's bet and not the actual singing of the anthem. I mean, this is so childish that amidst all what we're experiencing in this country of ours, when the government will preach about low unemployment, high economic growth, we have a stable economic environment, hotels after hotels are being constructed, increased visitor arrivals, etc. You tell me that we should be focusing on the ability or the inability of somebody singing the national anthem, and if they do so successfully, unprompted, you will hand over to them as a reward $1 million? You know how many people in Castries Central might be watching and listening to this broadcast right now? Let me say good afternoon to a NewsSpin fan. Somebody told me that Jojo, he always listens to this broadcast, or he also watches it on Facebook. What the people in Castries Central can do with $1 million. So here's what the leader of the opposition should do in taking up that challenge. Recite the national anthem successfully, sing it successfully, take the $1 million that your challenger would hand over to you as a reward, and invest it in the people of Castries Central. Don't you think that will make sense? I think that will be a sensible thing to do, because $1 million for all of us who are watching this broadcast right now and listening to it is a lot of money. And if properly invested, certainly that could aid in bringing some kind of relief to dozens, if not hundreds of people in any part of St. Lucia. So definitely, that is money that could be put to better use, other than this braggadocio and the grandstanding of $1 million, and I could write a check for $1 million right now if the leader of the opposition would take up this challenge. And most of us in this country, most people do not have $1,000 or $100 in their pockets right now. Far less $1 million. So if you have $1 million, you need to put it to its proper use so that it can bring relief to the many people in this country who are suffering right now. So here is the MP for Castries Central and Housing Minister Richard Frederick issuing that challenge to the leader of the opposition during the debate on the budget this year.
I will pay him $1 million, $1 million, if within the next month he stands anywhere, totally unprompted, and sings the national anthem in its entirety. And I stand by my word. I am paying him $1 million to stand by. I have to be present, sing the national anthem. And I'm giving somebody to hold the check. We could do it tomorrow or tonight. Tonight, Mr. Speaker, I am writing the check. I'm giving you the check. Let him exhibit his St. Lucianness by singing our national anthem in its entirety without being prompted.
MP for Castries Central and Housing Minister Richard Frederick issuing a challenge to the leader of the opposition. The reward is $1 million. And I hope that this will not dominate our broadcast today, because obviously, based on what is happening in our country with the crime problem, no matter you tell me you have low unemployment, you still have a significant number of people in St. Lucia who cannot make ends meet because they are either underemployed or they're unemployed. We need to focus on those issues. Those should certainly stand out as areas that have meaning for the majority of people in this country. This is the most monitored talk show in the world. Still to come, a certain aspect of the national anthem that we all should appreciate. This is the most monitored talk show in the world, NewsSpin, where we continue with your calls at 452-2979. WhatsApp calls and messages 716-2026, 716-2026. Here is a part of the national anthem that should guide our approach in St. Lucia, that should influence our behavior, and you'll be hearing it in just a moment. 452-2979, WhatsApp calls and messages 716-2026, 716-2026. And in just a moment as well, Amanda will be going through some of your comments in the chat room. But first, let's see there via WhatsApp, somebody says there, Tim, I want Kingston to re-erect the speed bumps by the Grosley Secondary School, or reconstruct the speed bumps by the Grosley Secondary School, because the drivers also speed on the road. Yesterday we had an accident with a car, between a car and a bus. Let's see if we have another WhatsApp message. Somebody says there, Tim, come the Prime Minister, Philip J. Pierre, sing the national anthem. Some of us born Lucians don't even care about the national anthem, far less singing it. Another WhatsApp message. Trying to go through as many as possible. What nonsense is that with Richard? If he has $1 million to throw away, why don't he just build proper free housing for his constituents? They sure need it. All right. So this is a part of the national anthem that I think we should embrace. We should live by this.
Strong in soul and strong in love, justice, truth, and charity, our ideal forever be.
May our people live united, not being divided by politicians. May our people live united, strong in soul and strong in arm. Justice, truth, and charity, our ideal forever be. I think we have a WhatsApp where somebody is singing a part of the national anthem. 452-2979, WhatsApp calls and messages 716-2026, 716-2026. In the meantime, let me see if I have a WhatsApp message to go through. Okay, somebody says there via WhatsApp, Richard is the definition of empty vessels making the most noise. That's a WhatsApp message. And another WhatsApp message to go through. Somebody says, so Richard is so rich, he can throw away $1 million. He is an arrogant loudmouth. He is a disgrace. WhatsApp message. Okay, so here is this lady who sent me a WhatsApp message and singing part of the island's national anthem.
Sons and daughters of St. Lucia, love the land that gave us birth, land of beaches, hills and valleys, fairest isle of.
We continue with your calls and your WhatsApp messages. Once again, 452-2979. WhatsApp calls and messages 716-2026. Let's see if you have a call on the landline at 452-2979. In just a moment, of course, Amanda will be going through some of your comments in the chat room. Let's see there. Do we have a call? Yes, we do. Good afternoon to you on the air.
Hi, Tim. Good afternoon.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon to you, caller.
To you and your assistant.
Good afternoon, caller.
Good afternoon, my dear. Tim, I just came across a rather interesting article in the New York Times, which possibly could assist us in this issue with these murders we have occurring in St. Lucia, and perhaps, if anything, could probably deter people from doing it. Now, as you know, in Ukraine, the Ukrainian army is outgunned by the Russian army, and there's a limitation in the weapons being supplied to them by the Americans, and there's talk about cutting back, etc., and so on. And that army, these people have got very self-sufficient in all the various things they're doing, to the extent that whilst they're deficient in numbers, the technology that they have developed along those lines has assisted them immensely.
Mm-hmm.
The article I was reading comes up with something that they call frontline drones. Right? They've developed the drone technology. It's homegrown to the extent they can actually they have frontline view of the drones slamming into tanks and bunkers and all sorts of stuff. Right? In other words, they can actually see that they sit in bunkers underground. It's called first view drones. That's it, first view drones. And they can actually follow the drones, exploding drones, into tanks, into bunkers, into troops, into buildings, etc., and so on. Now, if drones can be used to that extent in war, in fact, it's revolutionizing the whole concept of war, because now the American authorities are actually thinking of incorporating that, and they've been testing that kind of technology. Surely we can use that in our fight against this spate of murders, etc. we're having. A drone up in the sky can see, a fairly large view, and a combination between communications between a land-based communications unit and a drone, you can pick up these things fairly quickly. In other parts of the world, I'm aware, there's also technology. When gunshots go off, they can instantly give the authorities an idea of where the shots are originating from, and they can close in on those areas very quickly. Now, when we think of our GDP, gross domestic product is what, about 5 billion? Is it 5 billion yet? Do you know?
I don't have the exact figure, no.
But whatever it is, and let's say it's 5 billion, 4.5, I don't know. Tourism is said to be about, 60-70% of that, which means it's a substantial part of our revenue. And we should have a great interest, even if we have to spend a significant amount in curtailing that kind of activity, which is adversely affecting the reputation of St. Lucia a long way. I think it's something we should give serious attention to. We can't get these crimes going. We have too many unsolved crimes. The guy who died up in Cape State a couple of years ago, we don't know who killed him. The lady who died, the nurse in broad daylight, down in Goodlands, the nurse coming from work, we don't know who did it. And you can go all along. You pick up the two youngsters. I don't know if they're youngsters, but the two guys who was caught on camera on a motorbike killing someone on Derek Walcott Square. We still don't have them. So all these murderers are on the loose somewhere. And surely I would think there would be an interest in finding some way to conquer them. And I think we have not used that kind of technology enough. I think it's something the authorities should really
But the point you brought about the war between Ukraine and Russia, and even the fact that it's still on. Remember that war started in February of 2022, right? Yeah. That's over 3 years. Now, when Russia had threatened to mount that war against Ukraine, one could have easily anticipated it would have been over within a few weeks, or if not a few months. But we never anticipated it would drag on over 3 years.
Russia said it would be a week.
Yeah.
But the thing is, we didn't know we never really understood the culture, if you will, of the Ukrainian people. And these people they are inclined to want to literally die for their country, and they'll do everything they can to maintain their separateness, if you will, from Russia. And that's the reason, not forgetting the support they've got from the Western world, which traditionally they always support the underdog. That has changed now with the advent of Trump. But that is the traditional thing. People don't change borders by war. And because of that, they've looked for all sorts of ways to stay in the fight. And I find that particularly development very, very interesting. It shows you what people do in times of need. Necessity is the mother of invention. They don't have numbers. They don't have some of the sophisticated weaponry that Russia has, but they do have a lot of innovation, creativity. A lot of even Ukrainian guys who have worked in technology in the West are actually going back to Ukraine to give the people the benefit of their skills. It's an amazing thing. But as always, war forces the development of technology, and it's up to the rest of the world to use it in whichever way they can. And I think that is something we can think about quite seriously. We should be using that a lot more than we are at the moment.
All right, so thank you so much. And by the way, the St. Lucia's gross domestic product in the year 2023 was in the region of 2.5 billion US dollars. So that'll be over 5 billion EC. All right, let's find out what's happening in the chat room. Amanda, what's happening there?
A NewsSpinner says, Tim, nothing new from this SLP government. People, what do you all really expect from PJP? Six-star general is the so-called name, but PJP hasn't learned anything good. Bad leadership is a curse and everything suffers. Commentary reads, the team, have we been told the cost of maintaining the present K9 units and the successes of Tyson? A NewsSpinner says there, the money that Richard Frederick wants to give away to Chasney for the national anthem song, why don't he share this between the poorest of the poor in St. Lucia?
And I found this a little strange too, because, I mean, based on what most of us know, based on what we've been hearing, I mean, Chasney does not need $1 million from anyone. As far as I'm hearing, he has his own money. And as far as I'm hearing, he's scheduled to inherit the wealth of his father. So I don't know. I mean, offering him $1 million probably would cause him to chuckle.
Right. Another comment reads, our House of Parliament has moved from a circus to a casino. Thanks, Richard Frederick. Shake my head. Someone says there, where does that fit in the debates? Why was he not guided by the Speaker, who was enjoying it as well as the MPs present? Parliament in St. Lucia from 2021 is even worse than a circus and a preschool level. Lord help us. Another comment reads, we need that $1 million to buy meds for the hospital. NewsSpinner says there, the people who the passports were sold to, I hope they can sing the national anthem. Another comment reads, a wise man once said, do not let arrogance go to your head and despair to your hearts. Someone says here, why are you all entertaining this absurd idea and making these headlines? Don't we have bigger fish to fry? And a comment in the chat room here says, Richard Frederick must be laughing at you all. Back to you, Tim.
Thank you so much for that update. Somebody says via WhatsApp, I have a cookie for Richard Frederick. If he can call now and sing the first verse of the state anthem. If he sings the second verse, I will throw in a sweetie. I will give you Tim to hold the cookie and the sweetie. WhatsApp message. Let's see if we have a call via WhatsApp. Good afternoon, NewsSpin, you're on the air.
Good afternoon, Tim.
Hi, good afternoon to you, caller.
Oh, Lord, Tim. What's going on? Tim, that stunt Richard pulled with trying and, I don't know, insult our Prime Minister, well, I'm the leader of the opposition. I was under the impression that Richard was a businessman. And as a right-thinking businessman, I don't think that's the kind of moves or the behavior. To say you're going to bet with somebody, an obvious bet that can be won, okay? Because like a partner of mine was saying, all preschoolers can learn and recite the anthem. So that's obviously a bet he know he will lose. But the other thing is, he knows Mr. Chasney will not take him up on that. You understand? But how does it look to show that, I don't know if it's a bravado, if it's an ego thing, to show the nation that you can squander if Mr. Chasney were to pick you up on that offer. To just squander $1 million like that. I know the only time people waste money like that is when it comes easy, when you don't work for it. Isn't that so? When they say easy come, easy go?
Yeah.
Because I don't see somebody working for $1 million and squandering that just on ego, just to prove I can call the leader of the opposition and make him recite the anthem. Huh? And you tell me your hard-earned $1 million you will take and give just like that? Now that shows two things. The arrogance, or you didn't really work for that money, you just get it somehow, some way. Or you showing people that you have that money to literally throw away. If you had maybe said something like to a charity, if you did it, you'd give it to a charity, you understand? Something like that. But don't make it, or try and make it look like Mr. Chasney is so hungry for $1 million, he will take you up on that stupid challenge. So that whole thing just came across mindless, egotistical thing he was trying to prove. And in all honesty, anybody right-thinking person will see right through that, and that should backfire in his face. You understand? So the same way with when he did that, when he fell for that, he picked up Mr. Chasney on the when he said the WTF, and then he's asking the speaker to call out Mr. Chasney on that WTF. We all know what WTF means, yeah, etc. That was so obvious that I'm seeing he's falling for it. That also can only mean either he brainless or he figure the Speaker of the House was just so on their side that no matter what they say, even though it's obvious that it wouldn't make any sense, the Speaker would still side with him on that. You know? So this man just insists on using the House of Assembly as his little playground to boost himself and put his ego out there. But sadly, it just keeps backfiring in his face. Anyways, that's
okay,
my
caller.
take.
Thank you so much for sharing your point of view with us. Let's see if we have any of your WhatsApp messages to go through. Somebody says there via WhatsApp, I challenge Richard Frederick to sing Captain, the ship is sinking, to Philip J. Pierre. Let's see if we have another WhatsApp message. Somebody says there via WhatsApp. It's a long one. It reads that, to what extent must our politicians go at attempts to divide us? Of all the things that can unite us, wow, our politicians should do all to bind our St. Lucia nest stronger. Example, Julian Alfred, J.D. Emmanuel, Darren Sammy, Derek Walcott, Arthur Lewis, Ramo Poleon, Cesar Descartes, and NewsSpin. Alan Chasney has what he has, and no matter what silly politicians say, bet, allege, or accuse him of, none of that can change his complexion, his high-value connections worldwide, or his social status in this country, Canada, or Martinique. Richard Frederick would make much better sense using his government-accumulated wealth in stopping the countless little black boys from eating out of the garbage cans. Person continues, to your point regarding the government prioritizing matters that really matter, to date we have no official hospital in regard to St. Jude. My point, considering we rely so heavily on tourism, God forbid, a plane crash or some major pertaining incident to an incident involving a cruise ship and its guests, we are absolutely incapable of attending to such matters, and as such may have profound negative implications where there may be a major pull away from St. Lucia due to its lack/incapacity to provide proper medical assistance. Let's see if we have a call via WhatsApp. Good afternoon, NewsSpin. You are on the air.
Good afternoon, team. Good afternoon, Amanda. How are you guys?
Hi, good afternoon to you, caller.
Tim, this tape you played there about the minister challenging Alan Chasney. I'm telling you, I think we are looking at this on the wrong level, you know. I think we should call on an investigation into the minister, because you have to be filthy rich enough to be throwing $1 million out like that. You know, I think we taking that to as the minister is just talking, but we have to look into that thing a little bit more. And the reason why I'm saying that, a few years ago, I remember a clip came out on the minister's show where he said that a particular bank closed his account to something to that extent. I'm paraphrasing. So I think this is more serious than we actually taking it. We just run away with just the fact that he's asking the former prime minister, which is the leader of the opposition, to sing the anthem. But we have to look at this a little bit more closely. Anyways, Tim, the other thing I want to touch on is, Tim, have we really been paying attention to what is happening in this country in all those ribbon cutting and ceremonies that have been taking place in St. Lucia, whether people are opening a footpath or this and that? This has been going on for years, you know, Tim. Tim, we need an audit to be done as to the amount of money that's been spent on these things as well. Because I believe a lot of resources are being directed in the wrong things. And these resources, if you can recall, they're all being borrowed, Tim. These are not resources that we actually have and we're spending it. You can't borrow money to be doing these things, Tim, because it's bringing nothing back. Ribbon cutting here, ribbon cutting here. What about this groundbreaking ceremony we had in, what was it, opposite the cathedral there? What's the name of the thing they wanted to build there, Tim?
The Halls of Justice?
Halls of Justice, correct, Tim. We had a whole ceremony on this, Tim, and now we have to move it to a different venue. We have to pay attention to these things. The reason why I think we are allowing too much latitude to those politicians, and when we give them those latitude, they do whatever. We can't take it back, and we see how the country is already going down. Some people don't even want you to speak when it's your right to speak, Tim. You know, if you speak, you either get victimized. You know, we need to see what is happening. Take what is happening, very seriously. You can recall that I called on your show the very second, I think it was the second year into that government administration. And I told you, I said, Tim, if we don't be careful, we're going to go down like Haiti. And I know you laughed and you take it as a joke. And Tim, this is not a far-fetched, you know. This is not far-fetched, because I'm telling you, the first thing that they will take from you is your own right, you know. Look at how scared different media personnel, they're scared to talk on the radio. People are very afraid because government ministers can literally challenge them and take them to court when they are being paid by the taxpayers. You see what we are becoming. I want to say to St. Lucians, let's not forget, it was the very labor administrations of Kenny Anthony that have us in that predicament, you know. Because he came about with all those contracts. That's where everything started. You see that contract I can give that little boy here to do a little drain and this and that. It started making our people very dependent, Tim. And while we give these politicians so much latitude and power over us, and now we are grabbing to straws because we cannot control them. They say whatever they want to us in the parliament, whether it's true for we run with. Hello? Nobody wants to act. I'm so afraid. You know, careful as to how much power we give to those politicians. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you so much for calling, sir. 452-2979. WhatsApp calls and messages 716-2026. I think we have glossed over this issue involving the halls of justice and the about turn the government had to do. For me, very embarrassing, and more than that, this obviously, the changes would have come to a cost to you, the taxpayers of this country. And clearly what is lacking is sufficient analyses on issues of that nature involving people, stakeholders, individuals who are not aligned to any political party. Because so far, it's mostly the opposition, in particular the leader of the opposition and the deputies of the UDOP. They have been speaking on the halls of justice from the commencement of that project. And therefore, detractors and supporters of the SLP and maybe independent voters in this country might not have taken note. But what ought not to be ignored, even at this 11th hour, is that a government which boldly had this sword-turning ceremony and boasted about the need to have this project, believed in it, sold it to the St. Lucian public, had to come back, and this would have been instigated by a caller to this program and clarify the fact that it had to take certain changes, it had to make certain changes. And this was spearheaded in the first instance by the MP for Castries Central and Housing Minister Richard Frederick, who called this program NewsSpin. But before that, the government did not see the necessity to inform you, the voters of this country, the taxpayers of this country, that it had to take certain decisions. It had to revisit the project. And this we are hearing is to the tune of $14.5 million because this spot, a Judah lot, had to be purchased. And it's because of what? Bad decision that was taken by the government of St. Lucia in your name. It is costing more money to undertake that Halls of Justice project. Not that it matters, especially now at this juncture. But so many people in the past who spoke loudly on what they deemed to be injustices, maladministration, wastage by the previous administration, they have remained quiet on this particular issue. It's as if it does not matter. One day the government decided we're going to construct it adjacent to the cathedral on the lot which previously housed the courthouse. Then after that, in consultation, discussion with stakeholders and the Catholic Church, just had to change the plans. And easy so, just change the plans. Because it was costing the taxpayers $14.5 million, and it's not coming from the pockets of those who are in authority. And we don't analyze those things. We don't focus on them. We don't call on the government to account. We don't call on the government in this particular case, to rationalize the decision of costing taxpayers more money, because what the government will tell you is that this Judah lot, it does not belong to us. It does not belong to me, Philip J. Pierre, or this MP, etc. It belongs to you, the people of St. Lucia. But did you bargain for this? You were ever interested in purchasing the Judah lot? Were you of the impression that the Judah lot initially would have been part of this project, its Halls of Justice project? And the decision has been taken, costing you, the taxpayers of this country, more money. But we move on. We have a call via WhatsApp. This is NewsSpin. Good afternoon to you on the air.
Good afternoon, team. Good afternoon, Amanda.
Yes, ma'am. Good afternoon to you.
Team, I'm lost for words. It's unbelievable. The place by the police headquarters that was already cleared and meant for the halls of justice. Government didn't have to pay a cent for that property, right?
No, it's owned by the government and people of St. Lucia.
Exactly. So why, if the thing couldn't be put where they wanted to put it, why didn't they go to that original location? $14 million taxpayers have to pay. You think if Philip Pierre and them other ministers had to take out that money from their pockets, they would have taken that way? We need to sit down and think, what these politicians are up to. You mean to tell me you all have the property there, you all don't have to pay a cent for it? You all wanted to put it there, okay, it didn't work. Well, you're going to buy a property for $14-point-something million? And that's a government that say they put in people first. And there are people who... what is wrong with us St. Lucians? Team, that don't have nothing to do with yellow or red right now, That have to do with all of us as St. Lucians, team. It has to do with all of us as St. Lucians. All these old deals, the GPH, all these deals, the CIP. St. Lucians, stop thinking red and yellow. It has to do with all of us. It's going to affect us, and we go in and our children and grandchildren come in. What the hell? Sorry, team. Come on, man. What is wrong with Philip Pierre and these ministers and the St. Lucia Labour Party? And Labour Party is supposed to be for Malawi. They're supposed to be people first in the interest. Everything I see these guys doing, I am not seeing people coming first. I am not seeing it. People will hear me, they'll say because I support UWP. Of course, everybody knows I'm a supporter of UWP. But when it is wrong, you have to say it is wrong. What the Labour, if it was Shastny that was doing that, I'd come out the same way and say it. It is not right what they are doing, people, not because you all are red that you all have to just swallow the Kool-Aid and just play like you all dumb. And the flabbers come out and talk. We cannot allow politicians to be doing us that. It is not right what these politicians are doing. Getting rich on our head overnight and we're still there. Taking out 50 cents on gas. Insulting solutions. You know? And then 50 cents. Oh, please. That's what we deserve. Tim, thank you for listening to me.
You're welcome, ma'am. Thank you so much for calling. Another WhatsApp mention, but a comment in the chat room regarding the purchase of that Jew. Somebody says, are we sure that the new location is suitable for the project? What if later on we find out what that place is not suitable for the project? Shaking my head. Let's see if you have any comments in the chat room. Amanda.
Just a few comments from me, Tim. Someone says here, Avati, the world must be laughing at our people who are in high authority and their level of intelligence. Honestly, I am not sure that I can recite the full national anthem. Another comment. Tell PJP stop manipulating figures and giving us a creative alliance scam of a budget. It looks nice and profitable from afar, but it's far from it. And NewsSpin says there they don't think that they're accountable to the people of St. Lucia. Do as they please with taxpayers' monies. Another comment reads, stopping the VA4 administration building and the HIA PPP agreement cost taxpayers millions. Where was your concern then? Someone says there the halls of justice will be built under a bolt agreement. Someone says they're leaving the debt for our children's children to pay. Back to you, Tim.
Thank you so much, Amanda. Still to come, some more of your calls and your WhatsApp messages. And somebody pays tribute to Sir John Compton, because if you were alive today, tomorrow, he would have celebrated his 100th birthday. This is the most monitored talk show in the world. WhatsApp message, somebody says there, I played on behalf of students attending the Duga Combined School in Choiseul as a parent. I played on behalf of bus drivers transporting the children to school in this rural but outstanding school. The road is in a deplorable condition, especially from Mont Jacques to Duga. Trees and bush practically cover the road. We understand the politics, as despicable and merciless as it is. Our MP is in opposition and our roads should not be expected to be featured in the budget. But I make a plea on behalf of the children. Let's put them first. Bus drivers are reluctant to transport the children because of the condition of the road. Minister of Infrastructure and Minister of Education. There are other schools in this situation in Choiseul, but I speak on behalf of Duga Combined School because the school children are caught in the political crossfire and my child attends the school. I'll be grateful if you would give us some attention on the most monitored talk show in the world. So I was compelled to read this one, and here's hoping that the authorities will take note and attend to the concerns expressed by this parent. So apologies are in order, according to the management of Power FM, because earlier today there was this power outage at the radio station, and that's whilst the leader of the opposition was in the situation room. So I think this occurred at about 9:30 this morning, and according to a message I received from management, the leader of the opposition, Mr. Alan Chasney, will be back in the situation room, that is tomorrow, and to complete that interview. The situation room commences at 8:30 in the morning. So tomorrow would have been the 100th birthday of the father of the nation. This is not in dispute. He is the father of the nation, Sir John Compton. And I'm sure that from time to time we are wistful, we're hoping that he would have still been around and to benefit from his counsel. I for sure would have wanted, even on his 100th birthday, to interview him and what is happening right now in St. Lucia, the politics, the lack of foresight on the part of our leaders, and things that we certainly can undertake to put this country on par with a number of developed countries in the world. But unfortunately, he passed away in 2007. So tomorrow is his birthday. He's not around. He would have been 100 years old. Paying tribute to him is Mr. Elwin St. Rose, independent candidate for Ancillary Canneries.
This is a tribute to Sir John George Melvin Compton on the eve of his 100th birthday, if he were alive. If Sir John Compton were alive today, he would have been 100 years old tomorrow, April 29, 2025. The father of our nation, who was our country's chief minister, its first and only premier, and who led St. Lucia to independence in 1979 and becoming its first prime minister. Every subsequent prime minister of St. Lucia, notwithstanding political party affiliation, has stood and is standing on his broad leadership shoulders. A leader par excellence and the la crème de la crème among politicians. He wanted St. Lucia to be developed, and hence the reason why every part of our infrastructure in St. Lucia has Sir John Compton's fingerprints on it. From Hiranora International Airport to the Millennium Highway, and everything in between, to include the Sir John Compton Highway, the East Coast Highway, the development of Rodney Bay, the government buildings at the waterfront, and many others, Sir John Compton was a visionary and literally the father of our nation. A shrewd politician but a consummate professional. While he was prime minister, he would lean back in his seat in the House of Assembly and allow the opposition to speak without interruption, and rebutted only when he was given time by the Speaker to do so. He never got into petty wrangling in the People's House, nor did he pick fights with the Speaker of the House. His example teaches all politicians and would-be politicians what proper decorum and conduct ought to be when conducting the business of the people. His life was an effective example of humility and was one who believed more in doing than talking. He visited with constituents and supporters of the United Workers' Party wherever they were found. As a pastor in his constituency, I had the opportunity to meet with him on numerous occasions. In order to facilitate me and make it easier for me in discussing the needs of some of his people, he invited me to meet with him several times on his farm in Maho Miku, and from there in his farmer's boots, he made things happen for our people. It was for me a privilege. He was wise and insightful. In the 80s and 90s, democratic socialism was the in political ideology in the region and beyond. It had taken root in Guyana and Jamaica and was prevalent in Latin America. Sir John Compton knew such was not a winning ideology for a dependent Caribbean state on allies that were opposed to any form of socialism. He never yielded to that temptation and did all he could to make sure it never took root in St. Lucia. He was also a gracious and forgiving man. Who can forget the name he was dubbed and who did so? We mi jabla was the name of derision and scorn he was ascribed. Yet he gave this same person a position to represent St. Lucia at the United Nations because this individual was well capable of doing so. Sir John Compton wanted the best for St. Lucia and would never let capability go to waste. Though both the flavor and the tone of politics in St. Lucia have changed, Sir John Compton's legacy still speaks to us even from the grave, letting us know that the only public service that meets the criteria of excellence and is worth the while is the kind that wants the best for St. Lucia. Everything else, though attractive and sounding good, is just froth and political palaver. Sir John Compton was not perfect, but he was imperfectly excellent. He served our nation to the best of his ability, and he did so with distinction. He came back to office after retirement and effectively gave his life in service to St. Lucia. And while it is always easier to say what one did not do than to appreciate what one actually did, Sir John Compton met the demands and challenges of his time, and so must we, even in continuation of his vision. His motto and philosophy must be ours: to fight the wrong that needs resistance and to help the cause that needs assistance. Now is the time for all of us, politicians and non-politicians alike, to go and do likewise with a variation befitting of the 21st century in developing both our people and our country. May he continue to rest in peace, and may his legacy continue to speak to us from the grave. Thank you.
Mr. Elwin St. Rose paying tribute to the late Sir John Compton, whose 100th birthday is tomorrow. Finally, our NewsSpin news of the day. The NewsSpin news of the day reads, in news from Trinidad and Tobago, mental health experts are urging citizens to stay grounded and calm of the outcome of today's general election. In news from Trinidad and Tobago, mental health experts are urging citizens to stay grounded and calm regardless of the outcome of today's general election. And no doubt we'll be reporting on this during the course of our NewsSpin program tomorrow, as well as we'll be paying tribute to the late Sir John Compton. My name is Timothy Poleon. Thank you so much for watching and listening to another edition of the world's most monitored talk show, NewsSpin. Goodbye.